Hello Facebook and at some point soon YouTube as well. I am Chris Pickard, I'm Director of Body Imbalance in Hertfordshire, and this month I am dedicating to sports injuries and also enhancing athletic ability as well. And it's not just because the World Cup is on, I'd already decided this a long time ago. So, hello Jill Brown, first live watcher. I'll wave back. There we go. So, the reason I really thought about doing specific sports injuries this month was because I've been asked to write for a national magazine, and my first article I'm doing is on elbow pain. And while putting it together, I really came up with a systematized way of actually explaining how to heal from recurrent injuries, from sports injuries, athletic injuries. So this month I'm going to be talking about elbow injuries. I will talk about shoulder injuries and knee injuries. I'm going to focus on those because those are big areas of injury for so many different sports. And I'm also going to cover sort of athletic ability enhancement as well. But today I'm going to give a bit of a general overview as to what the steps are. Now, there are basically 5 steps to injury repair, or 6 depending on the type of injury. So you can't quite see this because of the lights and my camera's a bit broken. But number 1, there's a 0 that's missing there. You can't quite see. And you still can't see. 0. We'll get to 0 in a minute. So the 5 steps are rest, what, why, rehab and raw. So what do they mean? Well, first of all, when you have an injury, one of the best things you can do and one of the first things to do is pretty much rest it. Because if you've torn apart tendons or muscles or injured a ligament, you need to rest the area. And how much rest depends on the nature and the type of the injury and how severe it is. It could be enough to just rest it overnight. It may be that you've got to rest it for 2 or 3 days. Maybe you've got to rest it for 8 weeks, 4 months, 6 months. And that rest may not mean complete rest. It may just mean resting from doing extreme activity. So, first of all, you've got to rest appropriately for the injury. Then the what. The what isn't just about what is injured, because it can seem obvious that, okay, like for instance, golfer's elbow. You know what's injured, it's golfer's elbow. But you've got to find out exactly what structures in the area are not working. Is it properly golfer's elbow or is it something else? And then you've got the why. And the why could be poor technique from what you're doing. It could be because there's a weakness somewhere else. Like for instance, in the elbow, a chronic elbow problem could actually be because of a problem in your shoulder or your spine or somewhere different. So you've got what is the injury exactly, not just, oh, I've got an elbow injury, but what exactly is it? Because knowing the exact structure, whether it's ligament or muscle, means different things. Then you've got why is it there? And it's once you know the what and the why and you've rested it, then you can actually start a rehab program to either improve flexibility, to regain strength, to get the ligaments or the tendons healing. And they all require different things at different stages. And then you've got raw, which is the raw materials you need to actually repair. And again, it depends on what the actual injury is, whether it's a tendon or a muscle or a bone. Would depend on exactly what increased raw materials you need to help speed up the healing process. Now, also, all of this comes into play when actually choosing what raw materials you need to help you prevent injuries or to improve your performance at any given athletic endeavour. So, for instance, people trying to build a lot more muscle, they need different rest periods. They need different rehab and strengthening programs, but they also need different nutrition from someone who's an endurance athlete. An endurance athlete needs an awful lot of anti-inflammatory work, and so many endurance athletes have no idea how much harm they're doing to their immune system and to their joints by not actually taking raw materials really, really seriously. So what's the 0 then? Well, the 0 stage is for people who've had a sudden injury. So a lot of people are walking around with chronic injuries they've had for a long time or they keep on recurring. But say you've been playing football and you've had you've gone in for a tackle and you've injured your ankle or your knee. Well, yes, you've got to rest it. But before that, what you also need to do, or at the same time, is you need to get rid of the shock in the body. Okay, shock. I don't mean you have to have shock treatment. I mean, you've actually got to take the body out of shock, because anything where you've got a sudden injury, your body repels, it goes into shock. And when you're in shock, you can't repair properly. So the very first thing you need to do is, once you've actually made sure that it's not something so serious you need surgery for, is you need to get to a practitioner that's going to decrease the shock on your nervous system. And this was really brought home to me today, because I saw a patient who, she comes and sees me, on a regular basis to really look after and maintain herself. Usually waits till she gets a little bit of a twinge, a little bit of a warning. But she had an injury 2 weeks ago. And the reason she didn't come in immediately is because she didn't know that there are things that we can do immediately to speed up the repair process of the body. But primarily by taking the body out of shock. But also what we can do here at the clinic is we can do a lot of things to actually speed up the healing of ligamentous injuries, tissue injuries to tendons, muscles, bones, joints, because again, being in proper alignment, making sure the nervous system is actually firing into the muscles, directs the healing as well. And then there's all the correct nutrition as well to make sure that the process is actually fully supported. So if you have an injury and you're not doing anything about it, please give us a call. We can either design a program for you here if you can make it to the clinic, or at least we can look after you nutritionally no matter where you are. And we can design a program nutritionally to help you stay healthy and well. And there's some great online resources for training programs as well that I can recommend for you. And likewise, if you know someone that's actually coaching a sports team, maybe they need to know more about making sure they can reduce injuries. I use the same techniques, and I used to know one of the guys involved at the AC Milan lab, and I also know the nutritional protocols and general healing protocols that are used by a lot of, I think it's a quarter of the US Olympic team, and I'm not talking about steroids. Okay, thank you very much for watching. Please share this, because there's an awful lot of injuries out there that are going unnoticed, or they're just being allowed to build up, which can then lead to arthritis, which can then lead to chronic, lifelong problems. Okay, be well, live long, and prosper.